Hey guys, tonight we slip into the balmy haze of ancient Egypt, where the scent of crushed myrrh drifts lazily on the morning breeze, and the sky slowly warms from purple to gold over the quiet city of Thebes. You're not royalty. You're not a scribe. You're something far more fragrant, a perfumer. The nose of the Nile, and your job? To make the world smell less like unwashed sandals and more like a floral hymn to the gods. But let's not sugarcoat it. Ancient Egyptian hygiene wasn't winning any awards, and spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this. The labor? Grueling. The sun? Unrelenting. The ingredients? Often ground up animal bits and imported sap you could barely afford. And if the temple priests didn't like your blend, you could get cursed. Or worse, ignored. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is there, so feel free to share. In the comments below. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first blush of dawn spills across the city's clay walls, casting them in soft gold and pink. You stir beneath a light linen cloth, the coolness of night still clinging to the stones beneath you. Thebes hums faintly beyond your door, the creak of a cart's wheel, the low murmur of the river, the first sleepy voices of vendors setting out their wares. You breathe in deeply, and even at this hour, the city has its scent, a blend of river, mud, wood smoke, and the faintest trace of night-blooming jasmine. You rise, stretching limbs that ache from yesterday's labors. The floor beneath your feet is cool, grounding you in the moment. At the small basin, you splash your face with water drawn from the Nile, its chill startling and bracing. The polished copper mirror reflects a familiar face, lined from years. Under the sun, eyes sharp despite the early hour, hair pulled back and perfumed lightly with castor oil and a touch of cedar. You fasten your amulet of Bastet around your neck, a small carved cat's face, smooth from years of wear, and offer a silent prayer for a day free of disasters. Your workshop waits, a space dense with tools, scents, and memories. Mortar and pestles lie ready, bronze knives glint in the dawn light, baskets overflow with dried herbs, resins, and petals. The air is thick with the mingled ghosts of cinnamon, myrrh, and frankincense. The Temple of Amun expects sacred oil this morning, and you will not disappoint. You select your ingredients with care. Myrrh from Punt, sticky and fragrant. Cinnamon bark, warm and sweet. Castor oil, smooth and familiar. You begin grinding the myrrh, the pestle biting into the resin, releasing its bittersweet perfume. It fills the room, mingling with the growing light. The cinnamon follows, ground fine, dusting your fingers with gold. A slow stream of castor oil binds the blend, transforming powder and resin into a glistening paste. Outside, the city fully wakes. Donkeys bray, water jars clink, and the hum of voices rises like the tide. You pour the finished oil into an alabaster jar, cool and smooth to the touch. A fig wood stopper seals it, and you wrap the jar in linen, tie it with dyed wool, and place it in a reed basket lined with cloth. Your apprentice, as usual, is late. You make a note to scold him later, if you remember. The sun climbs, the city stirs, and the temple awaits. You shoulder the basket and step into the street, where the stones are still cool beneath your sandals, and the day begins in earnest. The streets of Thebes greet you with their usual mixture of promise and chaos. The sun has begun its steady climb, painting the city's mud-brick walls in hues of amber and ochre. Merchants set up their stalls beneath woven mats, the air soon filled with the cries of sellers hawking everything from dates and onions to linen and beads. The scent of fresh bread drifts from a nearby oven, mingling with the sharper tang of fish newly brought from the Nile. You shift your basket higher on your shoulder, mindful of the precious cargo within. The alabaster jar rests cushioned in linen, But one careless bump, one enthusiastic donkey or boisterous child, and the oil destined for Amun could end up feeding the thirsty stones. Your path takes you through narrow alleys, past doorways where women sweep dust into little heaps, and old men sip beer from clay mugs, watching the world wake up. Your destination is not the temple, yet you need resins for the next blend, and Hapu's stall near the market is your first stop. Hapu is as much part of Thebes as the river itself, squat, broad of grin, and eternally enveloped in a cloud of sweet and bitter scents from his wares. He spots you at once, his smile wide and knowing. Ah, the nose of Thebes. He booms, spreading his arms as if welcoming a long-lost brother. What treasure can I tempt you with today? Crocodile dung? Freshly gathered this morning. You roll your eyes but smile despite yourself. Save the crocodile dung for the priests of Sobek. I need myrrh, Hapu, good myrrh. And cinnamon bark. Not that brittle rubbish you tried to pawn off last month. He clutches his chest in mock outrage. You wound me, friend. Only the finest for you. From Punt, no less. The gods themselves would envy it. Historians still argue whether Egyptian markets were centers of commerce or stages for endless performance. Watching Hapu, you suspect it's both. He unwraps a bundle of resin, and the air fills with the sharp, sweet aroma of genuine myrrh. The cinnamon looks fresh too, its color rich, its scent warm. You haggle, of course. His first price would shame a pharaoh. Your refusal, your shocked expression, his mournful sighs, it's a dance you both know well. In the end, you settle on a sum that leaves you both pretending to be satisfied. You tuck the new purchases into your basket, carefully arranging them beside the temple oil. Hapu waves you off with a wink, already turning to lure in his next customer. Your path now leads toward the great temple itself. Its pylons rise above the city, massive and ancient, their carved faces of gods and kings catching the morning light. The scent of burning incense drifts on the breeze, mingling with the city's less pleasant perfumes. You join the steady stream of artisans, petitioners, and priests heading temple-ward. The stones beneath your feet grow warmer with each step, and the hum of chants reaches your ears, low and resonant. The gods wait, and so do their servants. The sun climbs higher. The day has truly begun. The towering pylons of Amun's temple loom before you, their stone faces worn but proud, their carvings catching the morning sun in sharp relief. You pause at the base of the steps, adjusting your basket, feeling the weight of your task settle over you like a second tunic. The sacred oil must be delivered, and the priests will expect not just craftsmanship, but reverence perfection. Even, you ascend the steps, each one broad enough to make the climb feel ceremonial. At the top, a pair of priests stands waiting, their linen robes immaculate, their heads gleaming where the morning light touches bare scalp. One steps forward, his expression severe but polite. His eyes flick to your basket. The oil? You bow low, presenting the jar as if offering a newborn. The priest takes it with practiced care, turning it in his hands, inspecting the linen wrapping, the carved fig wood stopper. He lifts the stopper and inhales deeply, his face impassive. A nod barely perceptible signals his approval. You will be paid at midday. Wait by the gate if you wish the coins today. You bow again, stepping back as they carry the jar within, disappearing into the shadowed corridors where gods and men meet. Historians still argue whether perfumers like you were artisans, servants, or something closer to priests in their own right. Here, standing on the temple threshold, breathing in the mingled scents of incense and stone, you feel all three: craftsman, servant, and supplicant. As you descend, the city stretches out before you, alive and golden in the morning light. The work of the day calls, but first you allow yourself a moment to simply stand, to watch Thebes wake, to feel the heartbeat of the city in the hum of voices and the rhythm of feet on stone. Your apprentice waits below, shifting from foot to foot, his eyes wide with anxiety. He carries a small reed basket, and even from a distance you can see the worry etched into his face. "Master, I went to the market to find more lotus petals for the lady's blend. But there was a scuffle. The boatman's donkey broke loose. My basket, it fell. The petals, you hold up a hand. Later, we have more work to do." Together you set off, the day's duties pressing forward like the tide, leaving no room for regret. Asterisk. The walk back to your workshop is brisk. The sun now bathes the city in bright gold, and Thebes hums with purpose. Vendors shout from beneath colorful awnings, their cries competing with the bray of donkeys and the clatter of carts. The scent of baking bread mingles with the sharper tang of drying fish, the sweetness of dates piled high in reed baskets, and the ever-present dust of the street. Your apprentice trails behind, silent now, his earlier panic replaced by shame. You let him. Stew. There will be time later for lessons. For now, your mind turns to the next task, salvaging the day's orders, fulfilling promises made to gods and nobles alike, and restoring a sense of order to a morning already off balance. The workshop greets you like an old friend, its familiar smells wrapping around you the moment you step inside. The air is thick with resin, oil, and the faint sweetness of past blends. Your tools await, mortar and pestles worn smooth by years of use, bronze knives for slicing bark and roots, jars of oils lined up like silent witnesses to your craft. Set the fresh myrrh and cinnamon bark onto the work table and unwrap them with care. The myrrh glistens in the light, rich and sticky, its scent sharp and earthy. The cinnamon's warmth rises as you break off a piece, releasing its sweet fire. The apprentice watches you work, hovering at your elbow. You can feel his tension, his need to redeem himself. Without looking up, you assign him the simple task of preparing the brazier, arranging the charcoal, fanning the first flames to life. He leaps to it, eager, and for now, you let him be. Historians still argue whether perfumers guarded their methods jealously or shared knowledge freely within their guilds. You've always believed in a middle path. Some secrets are family, passed from parent to child, but much is learned together, through trial, error, and the slow burn of experience. You begin the next blend, a sacred paste for a minor shrine, requested by a priest who prizes subtlety over spectacle. The work is steadying. The myrrh crushes beneath your pestle, the cinnamon follows, and together with castor oil and a hint of honey, they form a smooth, dark mixture. The apprentice fans the brazier, feeding the coals to just the right heat. A knock at the door breaks the rhythm. A neighbor, seeking a charm for restful sleep. You promise to prepare it later, and he departs with thanks. The city's needs are endless, but for now, the shrine's blend takes priority. Outside, the sun climbs higher. Inside, the workshop hums with quiet purpose, the scent of your craft rising like a prayer. You wipe your hands on a scrap of linen, satisfied with the batch resting in its clay jar. The paste gleams softly in the light filtering through the workshop's narrow window, its scent already rich and harmonious, a blend worthy of the shrine it will honor. You set it aside and glance at your apprentice, who stands waiting, clearly eager to redeem himself after the morning's mishap. "All right," you say, softening your tone. "Fetch more lotus from the market. And this time, no chasing loose. Donkeys, no dropping baskets." The boy nods fervently and darts out into the street, sandals slapping against the warm stones. You watch him go, then turn your attention to tidying the space, a task as soothing as the work itself. You rearrange jars, brush stray resin dust from the table, and set your tools in their proper places. The order restores a sense of calm, a rhythm to your thoughts, but peace is short-lived. A crash shatters the quiet, the unmistakable sound of pottery meeting stone in the worst possible way. You whirl around to find the source. There, near the doorway, lies the remains of one. of your alabaster jars, shattered into pale shards. A puddle of precious frankincense oil spreads across the floor, glistening in the sun's rays like liquid gold dot, and beside it stands your apprentice. Returned too soon, his face pale, his hands empty. His mouth opens, but no words come. You draw. In a breath, hold it, and then let it out slowly. Anger would serve no purpose. The oil is lost, and no scolding can restore it. Instead, you kneel, using a scrap of linen to blot the mess, salvaging what little you can. The scent rises around you intense, bittersweet, a reminder of the cost of carelessness. Clean up the shards, you say quietly. The boy obeys, his fingers trembling. Historians still argue whether imported oils were common or rare treasures. In your experience, they're rare enough that watching one seep into the cracks of your floor feels like witnessing a small tragedy. You rise, mind. Already working. There's no time to dwell on loss. You scan your shelves, searching for substitutes. Perhaps with local resins, a touch of honey, and skillful blending, you can create something that will satisfy the client. It won't be the same, but with luck, it will be enough. Your apprentice glances at you, guilt written in every line of his face. I'm sorry, master. You meet his gaze and manage a faint smile. You'll learn. We all do, one spill at a time. And with that, you set to work, the day's rhythm restored, even as the scent of lost frankincense lingers in the air. The afternoon sun hangs heavy over Thebes, pressing down on the rooftops and alleys, turning the city into a shimmering sea of heat. The streets that bustled with morning trade now quiet, as if the city itself has paused to catch its breath. Even the stray dogs and temple cats seek shelter beneath carts and awnings, their flanks rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. You wipe the sweat from your brow and retreat deeper into your workshop, where the thick walls offer some small relief from the blaze outside. Your apprentice follows you, carrying the last of the supplies you managed to gather this morning: bundles of fresh cinnamon bark, a jar of castor oil, and a small pouch of cardamom seeds that cost more than you care to admit. He sets them down gently on the work table, clearly hoping to avoid drawing further attention to his earlier mishap. The memory of the broken jar, the precious oil lost to the cracks in the floor, lingers in the air like the scent of the frankincense that had filled the room in its final wasted moments. You sigh, not in anger, but in resignation. The work of a perfumer is as much about patience as it is about skill. A spilled jar, a ruined batch, these are part of the path you chose, part of the price paid for the fleeting beauty of your craft. With practiced hands, you begin preparing for your next task, a commission for a minor temple, one that requests a blend for an upcoming festival honoring Hathor. The goddess of joy and love demands a scent that delights the senses, a perfume that rises sweetly with the smoke of incense, inviting worshippers to lose themselves in reverence and celebration. You sort through your stores, selecting the ingredients. With care, a block of myrrh, dark and sticky, crumbles slightly as you cut a portion free. The scent is sharp and earthy, grounding. You set it in the mortar, adding shards of frankincense, their resinous gleam catching the light. A handful of cinnamon follows, its bark curling like ancient scrolls, its aroma warm and comforting. Finally, a pinch of the precious cardamom seeds, their scent subtle but complex, a whisper of far-off lands and hidden gardens. Historians still argue whether ancient perfumers followed strict formulas handed down through generations, or whether they were free to innovate, guided by their senses and the desires of their patrons. As you crush the resins together, the pestle grinding in slow, steady circles, you feel the answer is both. The foundation of your craft rests on tradition, but within that framework lies endless room for creation, for the small choices that make a blend your own. The mixture begins to take shape, the powders fine and even, the scent rising in layered waves. You warm the castor oil over a small brazier, the flames flickering in the dimness of the workshop, casting shifting patterns on the walls. When the oil glistens and flows easily, you pour it in a thin stream over the fragrant blend, stirring slowly until a thick, glossy paste forms. The aroma deepens rich and full, the promise of sacred fires and joyful offerings contained within its dark sheen. Your apprentice watches in silence, his earlier shame giving way to fascination. He leans closer, breathing in the scent, his eyes wide with wonder. "It smells like the festival itself," he says, and there is no mockery in his voice, only awe. You smile, the first genuine smile of the long day. "Good, that is what it must be." Together you shape the paste into small cakes, pressing them into molds carved from sycamore wood, each bearing the mark of the temple it will serve. The cakes will harden as they cool, ready to be burned in offering, their smoke a bridge between mortals and gods. Outside, the shadows lengthen as the sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon. The city stirs once more, vendors returning to their stalls, children's laughter echoing down the lanes, the promise of evening bringing relief from the day's heat. You set the finished cakes aside, their forms neat and perfect, their scent filling the room with the essence of your labor. But the day's work is not yet done. A messenger arrives at your door, dusty from the road, bearing a summons from a noble household. A lady of the court desires a new perfume, one that will outshine all others at a banquet to be held tomorrow night. The messenger's tone is urgent, the kind that brooks no refusal. You nod, accepting the commission, already turning over ingredients and combinations in your mind. Historians still debate whether the perfumers of ancient Egypt were seen as mere craftsmen, or as artists whose work shaped the lives and rituals of their people. As you prepare to begin again, tired but determined, you know the truth. You are both. And tonight, as always, the city will sleep beneath a sky rich with stars, while you and your apprentice labor to weave dreams from scent and smoke. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting the city in a soft amber glow. The heat of the day lingers, but a breeze off the river brings fleeting moments of coolness. You decide it's time for a brief respite, a pause before the work of evening begins. You gather a simple meal, a small loaf of barley bread, a handful of dates sticky with sweetness, and a jar of beer cool from the shadows of the workshop. You step outside, seeking the shelter of the fig tree that leans gracefully over the lane beside your home. Its broad leaves dapple the ground with shifting patterns of shade, and beneath its branches the world feels quieter, gentler, settling. On the worn stone beneath the tree, you break the bread, its crust hard, but its heart soft. The dates are sweet, their flavor deepened by the heat of the day. The beer is sour and lively on your tongue, a familiar comfort. Your apprentice joins you, carrying his own modest portion. Together you eat, the silence companionable, the city's noise softened by distance and the hour. A neighbor passes, leading a donkey laden with jars of olive oil, and offers a wave. You nod in return. From nearby, the voices of women reach your ears, low, rhythmic, as they gossip and weave reed mats. Snatches of their words drift to you. Talk of a new tax on grain, of a merchant's runaway daughter, of a priest's lavish birthday feast. Historians still argue whether these midday pauses were moments of true rest or simply brief respites before work resumed. Sitting here, the bread warm in your belly, the breeze cool on your skin, you know the truth. This hour belongs to the people, a gift of peace in lives ruled by toil. You lean back against the tree's sturdy trunk, feeling its rough bark, watching as the sun dips lower, painting the Nile with ribbons of light. The work of the day is far from done, but for now you allow yourself this small, sweet pause. The golden light of late afternoon filters through the streets as you rise from the comfort of the fig tree's shade. The breeze carries with it the faintest promise of evening coolness, though the stones beneath your feet still radiate the heat of the day. There's little time left to waste. The noblewoman's order weighs heavily on your mind. Her demand was clear, a scent no rival could match, a perfume that would dazzle at tonight's banquet and secure her place at the pharaoh's side, or at least in his memory, that you make your way through the winding streets toward her grand house, basket in hand. The air smells of dust, of river mud drying on sandals, of roasting meat from open cook fires. Children dart through alleyways, chasing each other with laughter that echoes against the walls. A dog naps in the shade, one ear flicking lazily at. Flies dot the noblewoman's residence rises above its neighbors, its walls painted in faded colors, its courtyard lush with palms and flowering vines. A servant leads you through to a shaded alcove where she reclines on a cushioned bench, fanning herself with lazy grace. She is draped in fine linen, her arms heavy with gold, her dark eyes lined with kohl that only deepens their intensity. "You have come at last," she says, her tone sharp beneath its honey. "My rivals will reek of lotus and cinnamon. I want more. I want the pharaoh's breath to catch when I pass him. I want the gods themselves to notice. You bow low. I will create a scent as unique as your beauty, noble lady." Historians still argue whether Egyptian noblewomen truly dictated fashion and fragrance, or whether such accounts flatter their influence. Standing here, watching her gaze weigh your worth, you suspect those historians would do well to meet a client like this. She dismisses you with a flick of her wrist, and you retreat to your workshop, mind racing. You lay out your finest ingredients: blue lotus petals from the river's edge, imported cardamom, a sliver of sandalwood rare and precious, a few drops of rose oil saved for just such a commission. Each is measured with care, added with reverence. Blended with skill born of years of practice, the perfume begins to take form layer upon layer of scent, soft and bold, sweet and warm. Your apprentice watches, silent now, understanding at last the weight of true craft. And as the sun dips behind the city walls, you cork the finished blend in a delicate vial, a creation fit for queens, or at least for one determined noblewoman. With the noblewoman's perfume secured in its delicate vial, you prepare for one final task before night falls: a journey to the riverbank to gather fresh papyrus reeds and lotus blossoms. These will serve as adornments for the perfume's presentation, a detail the noblewoman did not request, but one you know will please her. Presentation, after all, is half the magic. The path to the Nile winds through narrow lanes where the heat of the day still clings to the stones. The air hums with the last activity of the daylight hours, merchants closing their stalls, mothers calling children home, the final bargain struck in the fading light. A vendor calls out, offering figs at a price that might tempt you on another day. But tonight your focus is firm. You reach the riverbank just as the first stars begin to prick the sky. The water glimmers, silver and deep, its surface broken by the soft ripple of fish and the slow, lazy movement of crocodiles you'd rather not notice. The air smells of wet earth, of mud and growing things, of the cool breath of water after a long, hot day. You kneel at the edge, fingers gentle as you pluck lotus blossoms from their stems. Their fragrance is delicate, fleeting a sweetness that speaks of moonlight and mystery. You gather papyrus reeds, their clean green scent rising as you cut them, and bundle your harvest carefully in a strip of linen. Historians still argue whether lotus was more prized for its fragrance or its sacred symbolism. Here, with the flower's fragile scent on your hands and the river's quiet song in your ears, you wonder if the distinction matters. The beauty is enough. Your apprentice waits at a distance, swatting at mosquitoes and watching the water warily. You rejoin him, and together you turn toward home, the city now cloaked in night, the Nile at your back, and the promise of rest or at least of quiet in the hours to come. The night wraps itself around Thebes as you return to your workshop, your bundle of lotus and papyrus cradled like a treasure. The city has softened with the setting of the sun. The voices of merchants and craftsmen have faded, replaced by the low murmur of evening prayers, the soft strum of a lyre in some distant courtyard, the gentle lap of the river against its banks. A cooler breeze drifts through the streets, carrying with it the mingled scents of wood smoke, bread, and the faint sweetness of blooming night flowers dot inside the workshop. The air still holds the warmth of the day, but the heat is no longer oppressive. You set about the task of preparing the noblewoman's presentation. You arrange the lotus blossoms and papyrus reeds carefully around the vial of perfume, nestling it all within a shallow basket lined with clean linen. The sight pleases you, simple, elegant, a fitting frame for your creation. But as you admire your work, your thoughts drift to a challenge that haunts every perfumer in Thebes: how to make these fragile scents endure. The desert sun devours perfume with ruthless hunger. Oils evaporate, fragrances dull. The delicate harmony of a blend can unravel before noon. Even the noblewoman's extravagant orders will fade beneath the heat unless you can find a way to anchor the scent. You turn back to your bench, where small pots of beeswax wait. You warm the wax over the brazier, stirring in a portion of the noblewoman's blend. The mixture thickens, its scent deepening as it binds with the wax. You test a dab on your wrist, stepping outside into the night air. The fragrance lingers, soft but steady, even as the breeze stirs your tunic and ruffles your hair. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptian perfumers mastered the art of scent preservation, or whether their creations were simply ephemeral, meant to be renewed with each hour. As you work, you feel you are part of that long search for permanence, for a way to make a fleeting moment of beauty last beyond the sunrise. Your apprentice returns from tidying the courtyard, his eyes bright despite the hour. "It smells wonderful," he says, sniffing the air. You smile, weary but content. "Let's hope the noble lady thinks so too." And with that, you place the sealed jar alongside the decorated basket, ready at last for delivery. With the noblewoman's commission complete, you take a rare moment to seek company among your peers. The Perfumers' Guild meets nightly in a shaded courtyard near the market, a simple space where those who work with scent can share stories, advice, and sometimes grievances over shared challenges. You make your way there under the cover of night, guided by the soft glow of oil lamps and the quiet hum of Thebes at rest. The guild courtyard is alive with low conversation. Artisans sit on reed mats, clay mugs in hand, the air thick with the mingled fragrances of their trades: cedar, cinnamon, frankincense, and the ever-present tang of castor oil. A brazier smolders at the center, sending up lazy curls of smoke that carry hints of resin and honey. You're greeted with nods, the kind shared between those who understand the demands of the craft. Annan, an older perfumer who specializes in blends for burial rites, gestures for you to join him. His eyes, sharp despite his years, glint in the lamplight. "Tough day?" he asks, passing you a mug of cool beer. "They're all tough," you reply, taking a sip, the sour tang refreshing after the heat of the workshop. Noble women with impossible demands. Apprentices with 2 left hands, the usual. Pacer, who fancies himself a master of exotic resins, chuckles from his place nearby. "At least they pay you. I spent a week crafting a balm for a priest's arthritis. He thanked me with blessings and not a single copper." Historians still argue whether guilds like yours were formal institutions or informal gatherings. Sitting here, feeling the tension of the day melt away among those who speak your language of scent and labor, you know it doesn't matter. Here, knowledge is shared freely, lessons learned through burnt fingers and botched batches traded like the finest gossip. The talk drifts from trade to rumor. A caravan from the east bringing sandalwood and cardamom. A temple order so large it will keep half the guild busy for weeks. A rival perfumer accused of cutting his oil with rancid fat, an offense as grave as any crime. The night deepens. The stars wheel above, and for a little while, you let the weight of the day slip from your shoulders, soothed by friendship, by shared struggles, by the unspoken bond of those who shape the world's invisible beauty. The comforting murmur of the guild is interrupted by hurried footsteps in the lane beyond. A boy appears in the courtyard, breathless, his eyes wide with urgency. His tunic clings to him with sweat, his feet dusted from running. Master Perfumer. He gasps, scanning the gathering until his gaze lands on you. The palace, there's been a summons. You are needed at once. A special offering for the pharaoh's evening ritual. The priests say it must be ready before the final prayers. The courtyard falls silent, all eyes turning toward you. Anan raises his mug in a silent toast of good luck. Pacer gives you a look that says he's glad it's you, not him, who's been chosen for this honor and burden. You rise, heart already racing, mind turning over possibilities. The pharaoh's favor is a prize beyond price, but his displeasure can tarnish a perfumer's name for life. Tell them I come, you say, and follow the boy out into the night. The city feels different beneath this summons. The streets are quieter now, but each shadow seems deeper, each distant sound sharper. The boy leads you through narrow lanes, past shuttered homes and sleeping dogs, until the palace walls rise before you, pale in the moonlight, massive and unyielding. Guards part to let you pass, their eyes impassive beneath bronze helms. Inside, the air hums with tension. Lamps flicker along stone corridors, casting wavering light over painted scenes of gods and kings. The scent of incense is thick here, heavy with expectation. You are brought to a small chamber where priests wait, their expressions grave. They speak in low voices, naming the ingredients they desire: frankincense, myrrh, lotus, sandalwood, and something else, something unusual. A merchant nearby claims to have a rare enhancer, a secret known only to the priests of Sobek. You are tasked to retrieve it and prepare the offering before the moon reaches its peak. Historians still argue whether these palace summons were signs of favor or tests of loyalty. Tonight, under the watchful eyes of gods and men alike, you feel both. You bow, turn, and set off once more into the night, the weight of the task heavy on your shoulders, the city's silence pressing close. The night air is thick and still as you hurry through Thebes. The boy guiding you toward the merchant said to hold the priest's secret ingredient. The streets feel unfamiliar under the weight of your errand. Shadows stretch long beneath the moon, and every sound seems amplified. The clatter of a stray cat knocking over a jar, the soft rustle of palms swaying in the breeze, the distant hum of river water lapping at the city's edge. You reach the merchant's stall, a crooked structure, tucked beneath the overhang of a crumbling wall. A single oil lamp flickers at its heart, casting long, trembling shadows over baskets of resin, bundles of herbs, and strange jars whose contents are best not guessed at too closely. The merchant himself waits, as if expecting you, his smile as thin as his frame, his eyes sharp in the lamplight. You come on palace business, he says, not asking so much as declaring. You nod. The priest sent me. They say you have what is needed. From beneath his table he draws a small jar, sealed with wax, its sides smeared with river mud. The scent that escapes when he loosens the stopper is not pleasant, a wet, earthy smell, tinged with something sour. Crocodile dung, he announces with pride. Fresh, blessed by the priests of Sobek, said to give any offering power. You keep your expression neutral, though your stomach tightens. The use of such ingredients is controversial at best, ridiculed at worst. Historians still argue whether such things were genuine tools of magic or merely superstitions peddled by the desperate and the cunning. Tonight, you do not have the luxury of debate. You haggle because it is expected, though your mind races with the preparations ahead. The merchant names a price fit for gold. You bring him down to bronze. The exchange is made, the jar wrapped and secured in your basket, and you turn back toward the palace, the boy at your side. The city silent but for the soft pad of your footsteps. On the worn stone, the palace gates rise before you once more, and you step through, ready to weave together the strange and the sacred, the familiar and the unknown, into an offering worthy of the pharaoh's gods. The chamber where you will work is small, its walls lined with painted scenes of sacred rituals and divine offerings. The priests watch as you unpack your materials, their faces solemn in the flickering light of the oil lamps. Outside, the palace hums softly with the sounds of preparation, the low murmur of chants, the shuffle of feet as attendants ready the temple space for the pharaoh's arrival. You spread your tools on the table, a pestle worn smooth from years of use, a mortar of polished basalt that catches the lamplight, jars of myrrh and frankincense, small bundles of lotus petals, a precious sliver of sandalwood, and at last the small wax-sealed jar of crocodile dung. Even wrapped in linen, its presence seems to taint the air with a sour, earthy note. You begin with what you know, grinding the myrrh and frankincense together until they form a fine, fragrant powder. The scent rises around you, sharp and sweet, grounding you in the familiar. The priests lean closer, their eyes keen as they watch your every move. You add the sandalwood, shaving it carefully, the slivers falling like curls of fragrant ivory into the mix. Then reluctantly, you break the seal on the jar from the merchant. The contents glisten darkly in the lamplight, their odor strong and unpleasant. You measure out the smallest portion you dare, blending it quickly into the fragrant mixture, hoping its power is more symbolic than olfactory. Historians still argue whether such additions were meant to appease specific gods or simply to impress the superstitious. As you work, you suspect both explanations hold a grain of truth. Over the brazier you warm a small pot of beeswax, stirring until it melts and shimmers. You fold the fragrant mixture into the wax, binding it, shaping it into small offerings that will burn cleanly, their smoke rising in sweet spirals toward the gods. The priests nod, satisfied. The blend is ready. You step back, weary but relieved as they carry the offerings away. The pharaoh will approach the altar, the incense will rise, and your craft will speak in smoke and scent, a silent prayer woven through the night air. The palace doors close behind you, and for the first time in hours, the night air greets you without the weight of duty pressing against your chest. The sky above Thebes is a deep tapestry of stars, their silver light casting soft reflections on the quiet river. The city, though still and resting, seems to hum with the memory of the day's labors and the sacred rites now completed. You walk slowly through the streets, basket empty save for scraps of linen and the faintest trace of incense clinging to the woven reeds. Your sandals scuff softly on the stones, each step carrying you further from the palace's grandeur and closer to the comforting familiarity of home. As you near a cluster of market stalls closed now, their goods tucked safely away behind shutters and woven screens, you catch the murmur of voices in the shadows. You pause, instinct guiding you to listen. Oil, I'm telling you. Stolen right from the temple storehouse. Enough to fill 10 jars. A second voice, lower and more cautious. And you're sure? That's dangerous talk. The priests will be searching for culprits. You move back, blending with the deeper shadows cast by a fig tree. Stolen temple oil. The words chill you more than the night air ever could. Such a theft is no small crime, it is sacrilege, a wound to the gods themselves. And in the eyes of the priests, guilt often lands on those nearest the sacred craft. People like you. Historians still argue whether these temple thefts were rare acts of desperation or signs of deeper corruption. In this moment, the debate feels distant, academic. What matters is that suspicion will fall somewhere, and you must do all you can to keep your name and your apprentices clear of it. The voices fade as the men move on. You wait until their steps are lost to the night before you resume your walk. Faster now, eager for the safety of your workshop's walls. The Nile glints beside you, and for the first time tonight, its song seems more warning than comfort. You slip through the narrow streets, your footsteps quick but quiet, every sound amplified by the night's stillness. Thebes sleeps, but to you, the city feels alert, as if it too senses the tension in the air. The scent of the river mingles with the fading sweetness of distant incense, and the moon casts long shadows that stretch like fingers across the stone lanes. When you reach your doorway, relief washes over you. The familiar shape of your home, the worn wood of the threshold beneath your hand, the weight of the door as you pull it closed behind you. These are small comforts, but tonight they feel like shields against the unseen dangers beyond. Inside, the workshop glows softly in the light of a single oil lamp. The scents of the day linger: beeswax, resin, crushed petals. You breathe them in, grounding yourself, pushing away thoughts of thieves and temple wrath. But sleep eludes you. Instead, you take up your tools, drawn by the need to create, to restore. Order through the rituals of your craft. You select a small quantity of blue lotus, its petals dried, but still fragrant, and crush them gently. You add a touch of honey, warmed over the brazier until it flows like liquid amber, and mix in a shaving of sandalwood. The blend is experimental, unrecorded, yours alone. Historians still argue whether ancient perfumers were bound to rigid formulas, or whether they allowed themselves moments of invention, of artistic whim. Tonight, you choose to believe in invention. The blend forms a soft paste, fragrant and rich, a scent that speaks of river breezes and moonlight. Your apprentice stirs from his mat, watching you with sleepy curiosity. "Master?" he asks, voice thick with fatigue. You smile faintly, stirring the mixture one last time. "Go back to sleep," you whisper. "I'm only dreaming with my hands." And as the night deepens, you work on, chasing that perfect scent, the one that might outlast even the stars. Dawn creeps over Thebes with a softness that almost disguises the city's harsh edges. The first rays of light catch on the Nile's surface, turning it to molten gold. You stand at your doorway, basket in hand, the jar of your midnight creation nestled within. The scent drifts up, faint but persistent, sweet, warm, touched with the hush of the hours in which it was born. The streets are quiet at this hour. The city is not yet fully awake, though the hum of life stirs beneath the surface. You walk toward the river, sandals scuffing softly against the worn stones. A fisherman casts his net into the shallows, his movements slow and practiced. A woman fills a jar at the water's edge, her silhouette graceful against the pale sky. You pause at a small, weathered shrine set into a wall, a simple clay figure of a forgotten god, its features smoothed by time and countless offerings. You kneel, placing your jar at its base. The scent rises as the warming air stirs it, mingling with the smell of river mud and papyrus. Historians still argue whether these small shrines were tended by priests or left to the care of common folk. To you, it matters little. The gods are everywhere, in grand temples and humble corners alike, and your offering is as sincere here as it would be in any gilded hall. You whisper a prayer, simple words, asking for guidance, for protection, for inspiration. The breeze answers, rustling the reeds, carrying the scent of your craft out over the water, toward the waiting city. With a final bow, you rise and turn for home, ready to face the day's demands, your spirit steadied by this quiet ritual. The sun climbs steadily now, casting its golden light across Thebes, turning rooftops to copper and the Nile's ripples to molten threads. The city awakens around you, vendors unrolling mats, temple bells tolling softly in the distance, low murmur of voices greeting a new day. You walk home with unhurried steps, the weight of the empty basket light upon your shoulder, your mind occupied by scents, memories, and possibilities. At the workshop, your apprentice is already sweeping the floor, his movements more careful than usual. The boy is learning, each mistake a lesson, each task a chance at redemption. You nod to him and set down the basket, rolling your shoulders to ease the ache from the long hours of the night. Your shelves bear the scars of hard work, jars lined neatly but stained with use, bundles of herbs tied and retied until the fibers fray, tools worn smooth where hand meets handle. And yet, the sight is comforting. Here, within these walls, you shape the invisible, crafting beauty from fragments, devotion from dust. A knock interrupts your thoughts. At the door stands a young scribe, his fine linen wrinkled from haste, his eyes bright with hope and nerves. He carries a small purse and bows low. "Master Perfumer," he begins, voice low as if sharing a secret. "I seek your skill. There's a woman, a musician at the temple. I would give her a token, a scent to speak what I cannot." Historians still argue whether perfumes served as sacred offerings or tools of seduction. As you listen, you know the answer is both. You invite him in, asking gentle questions as you select your materials. Lotus for grace, a hint of mint for freshness, sweet almond oil to carry the blend. You work swiftly but carefully, mindful of balance, of harmony. When you hand him the finished vial, his gratitude shines. He presses the purse into your hand and hurries off, hope trailing behind him like the fragrance you've crafted. The city hums around you as morning deepens into day. Thebes is alive with the rhythm of work, potters shaping clay on spinning wheels, weavers beating threads into linen, market traders haggling with cheerful ferocity beneath awnings that flutter in the rising breeze. The scents of the city mingle baking bread, fresh fish, crushed herbs, sun-warmed stone. You walk the streets with a purpose beyond commerce. There is still the matter of the stolen temple oil, the whispers that cling to the air like smoke. You visit those you trust, fellow perfumers, merchants of good standing, listening, watching, weighing every word and glance. No one admits knowledge, but the tension beneath polite greetings and shared mugs of beer speaks volumes. At your workshop, you find comfort in the familiar order of your tools, in the simple act of wiping down a jar, of sorting fresh resins. Your apprentice works nearby, quieter than usual, his brow furrowed in concentration as he grinds a small batch of cinnamon bark for future use. A neighbor pauses at your doorway, offering a smile and a loaf of bread in thanks for a charm you prepared weeks ago. Such small kindnesses remind you that not all is shadowed by suspicion. Historians still argue whether craftsmen like you lived under constant scrutiny or were left in peace to practice their art. Today, you feel both truths keenly. You are respected. But in times of trouble, respect can turn to doubt with dangerous speed. As the sun begins to lower toward the west, you set aside your worry. The stolen oil is beyond your reach for now. What you can control is your craft. You return to it with steady hands, blending, measuring, shaping offerings that will rise in smoke and scent to honor the gods and soothe the hearts of men. Night once again wraps Thebes in its cool, dark cloak. The city softens, its edges blurred by lamplight and shadow. You climb to the flat roof of your home, seeking peace beneath the endless stars. The Nile glimmers nearby, its surface a silver ribbon that hums softly with the breath of the night. You stretch out on a reed mat, the warmth of the day still lingering in the stones beneath you. The scents of your craft cling to your skin: honey, lotus, sandalwood, and resin blended by the labors of your hands and the passage of hours. The air is soft against your face, the breeze carrying the mingled perfumes of the city. Wood smoke from a dying cook fire, the faint sweetness of flowering vines, the clean sharpness of river water. Above, the stars wheel slowly, patient and eternal. You watch them as your breathing slows, as the weight of the day's worries begins to ease. The stolen oil, the noblewoman's demands, the temple's summons, all drift like smoke into the dark, carried off by the night's gentle hands. Historians still argue whether perfumers like you were mere artisans or something more: keepers of secrets, weavers of invisible threads that bound the living to the divine. Lying here beneath the heavens, you feel both humbled and proud. Your craft is fleeting, its beauty as fragile as the bloom of a lotus, but it lingers in memory, in ritual, in the breath of gods and kings alike. Sleep begins to claim you, soft as a whispered prayer. The Nile's song cradles you, the city's heartbeat slows, and the world fades gently, leaving you adrift on a tide of stars and dreams. Thebes lies quiet beneath the night sky, its stones cooled by the breeze that drifts softly from the river. The work of the day is done. The jars are sealed, the offerings made, the prayers whispered into the scented smoke of your craft. And now, as the stars glimmer overhead and the Nile hums its ancient song, you let yourself rest. Your breath slows, deepens, each inhale draws. In the night's cool sweetness, the memory of honeyed kifi, the delicate ghost of lotus, the warm trace of sandalwood. Each exhale releases the day's weight, the hours of labor, the worries that no longer need to follow you into sleep. The stones beneath you, warm from the sun's touch, hold you steady as the world softens at the edges. The city's voice fades to a murmur, the last bark of a dog, the faintest strum of a lyre, the gentle lap of water against the shore. Above, the stars keep their silent watch, endless and unchanging. Let your eyelids grow heavy. Let the night carry you on its quiet breath, the world beyond slipping gently into dreams. The gods watch over you, the river cradles you. All is well, greater than end of script. Sweet dreams,